What's going on? It's Joel Casanova once again, and welcome to the Behind Our Dance Talk Show. Every Wednesday, when I get someone else on the talk show, I'm always very interested in what they have to say, and just by telling their story and how they live their life and the things they experienced, will interact with the people who watch. Because if you think about it, everyone who's like telling their story and saying, hey, this is what happened, and I went to this place and I decided to do X and Y, like on podcasts or YouTube channels or interviews or even live things, the news, whatever, when you're watching, you're just hearing the facts of what happened. They didn't think that they're like, okay, like I'm going to go through this and say, I'm going to make this decision because later on I'm going to be interviewed by these people or this person so that they can know whatever. Like they're just experiencing things for good or for bad or for just neutral things that happen, decisions they made in life. So their whole life essentially has led up to that moment where you're hearing their story. So it's a very sacred. Maybe sacred is too hard, like heavy of a term, but it's a very serendipitous moment because you're hearing their story maybe for the first time, and anything that you get from them will have been like a natural progression of them living their life and then you hearing about it later. So anyways, that's what I love about it. You're going to hear the story and from the perspective of my friend Tamra, like years ago, invited me to go to Kentucky to be part of a business conference, and it totally changed my life. Especially as someone who owns a business, because at that moment I didn't even think I owned a business. I was just dancing. And so hearing her perspective on things and her decisions and how she got to where she is very cool. She's a huge supporter of dance, which in a completely unbiased way I love. So enjoy her story and hope you get something from it. How about we just start off with the foundation, like you're a person first. So what do you do if you were to be, sitting next to someone on like a bus stop? I guess I'm not sure why you'd be at a bus stop, but like they're like, "Hey, what do you do? Who are you?" And you're starting to have a conversation. How would you answer that?
Yeah, I love to actually answer it the way my, at the time, 9-year-old answered it in my kitchen when he found out that I sold something and we were celebrating sale and with my husband and he's like, "Wait, what, you sell things?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what do you think I do for work?" And he was like, "I don't know, you talk all day." And I'm like, well, that's true. So if I were to sell something and you know that I talk all day, what do I sell? And he was quiet for a minute and he was like, "You sell words." And I was like, "That's it. I sell words. I sell words through publishing, through podcasting, and through just the development of the word and me being sharpened by the word every day." And so I really live in this special chasm between faith and business in the marketplace, helping people deploy and develop their messages, which ultimately I believe we're all messengers. And so to be able to just share and showcase, and I think that's why I connect with you so much, because your message comes through a different way than traditional business or entrepreneur. And it's really fun to explore.
Yeah. So what do you do with dance now
Yeah.
specifically?
Yeah, so now I feel like my main modality where it's connected to dance is worship. I really I got involved in my early, or it was, I guess it was late 20s. I've been dancing for a really long time. We can talk about that too. But I said yes the first time I ever felt like called to do something by God. I was sitting in a multifaceted, multi-generational and ethnic church, and there was a guest speaker, and the guest speaker was inviting us into something called Burn 24/7. And it was literally like the first time I was like, I am being drawn into this. And I didn't really know what it was. I just knew it was my first exploration of like going deeper in the word of God. And I found out that it was a worship school. And I'm like, okay, I am not a musician and I am not a singer, but I'm going to sign up for this school. And I looked like a crazy person on the first day when everyone was introducing their instrument or their vocality, like I'm alto or I am soprano. And I'm like, I am none of these things. And so I'm like, I don't know why I'm here other than God told me, and I'm just being obedient. But in
Mm,
that year of practice, and really just dissecting what is worship and what's the heart of God in worship, I unlocked dance again. And it was through this ideation of worship, because for a really long time, dance got thwarted by the world.
mm,
When I was in my 20s and prodigal and in clubs and all the different places, like my body became a method or a model for somebody else. And when I unlocked again, like, wow, I was made to worship, like my body is a vessel of the Holy Spirit, and I get to utilize that to honor God. It transformed my life. And so it really allowed me to say yes to worship through dance again. And it was really it made me cry. I was a baby about it because I was just like, I thought this was something that was the world, and to find out that it was God's idea and it's God's heart. And I think I'm going to be dancing for the rest of my days and all of eternity. So why not do it now? So Oceanside dancing is my favorite. If I was to choose a place to do it, it would be at the side of the ocean where I feel the smallest, but also his expansiveness all in one place.
yeah. Uh, Not that I have any bias, but I'm so glad that you came back to dancing. No, so let's like rewind then.
Yeah.
You said you've been dancing for a long time. When were you first introduced to dance, and what was
Yeah,
it
I
about
was a
dance?
gymnast. So I was a gymnast for 16 years. I started gymnastics when I was right under the age of 3, which is really wild. But I've got an 11-year-old who was in the same exact bracket. I remember putting her in her first leotard, and it was like deja vu as she was like 2 years old. The cutest thing ever. But through that, dance is like a really foundational element of gymnastics. Obviously, through floor and balance beam, just even the way that you posture yourself is coordinated to dance. And as my skill level increased, we would do traditional dance, we would do ballet, we would have ballet classes, we would do jazz and tap and all of these different things, because we would have guest trainers come in to try and help us
Cool.
develop our own sense of dance in our floor routines when we started to get creative. In elementary school, I actually participated in the OCD or the ODC program here, which is all around dance. So every Friday I got picked up from public school and got carted off, which I thought was so cool. I didn't have to be at public school and go dance every Friday, which was just awesome. And that really continued to get developed through the gymnastics. And then in high school, I joined the dance team. That was my first like real exposure with hip hop, which I have lots of different thoughts around now. But really, I think hip hop is such a cool expression of how we can practice the vocation of our relationship with music and sound.
Mm,
But at the time, again, I just felt like I was too young to understand all of that and was really just infiltrated by the world. Got to go to a really cool William and Mary dance camp during that time, and got invited to go to the Pro Bowl and dance in Hawaii, which I really wish I would have done. My mom and dad at the time, like finances or like creative
mm,
funding or door knocking, wasn't in a part of my upbringing like it is for my kids. So I wish I would have done that. But even just the experience and the knowing that that was an opportunity really blessed me, because I loved lyrical dance is probably my favorite, which is has been fun to explore again with you. And then again, at that pivotal moment, it kind of got shut down once I got married and had kids.
mm,
And then it got reemerged in the worship school I alluded to. And then again, when I witnessed my son, who was just so much fun when it came to dance, he was always moving his body wild. And it was COVID, and that was when I got reintroduced to everything that you offer essentially. And I'm like, I want my kid to like really love dance, and he's already naturally talented, and what else are we going to do? We're locked up at home. And so Joel, you were a highlight of our week every time he got to dance. And I just remember he would always plant his feet, and everything was all about his upper body. And you were like, Coop, man, you've got such cool skills, but let's put your head and your feet together.
Yeah.
And so watching him unlock dance, we used to dance in the kitchen together. And then again, when I started doing it with you just a couple years ago, that was like a whole other exploration.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's amazing for me. It's amazing how like how many ebbs and flows can happen just in
Yeah,
one person's journey because of various reasons, good and bad.
right.
I totally relate to Coop because that was me when I first started dancing. I was like never moving my legs. So I'm like, I understand you at a deep level. Um, so you have a lot of different experiences that
Yeah,
kind of moved around. I know a lot of for me personally, I know a lot of your connection to like your faith decisions in terms of
right,
dance.
right.
So, can you tell me more about that? Like what did it change in you when you started like connecting your faith and dance? Because you said that's what you primarily do with it now.
Right.
So, how did that change? What was the shift that happened in your mind and in your dance journey?
Yeah, I think, like I said, going into and unpacking like the heart of worship, and I have always loved music, but I never connected like the depth of what music means to how I get to move to express said music. And
Right.
so it wasn't until a couple of years ago I was like, um, really passionate about exploring hobbies again. And I think as we get older, that's something that we kind of just let die out in who we are. And we are doing the traditional, 9 to 5 work and parenting if you've got kids and spousing if you've got a spouse. And you're kind of just like going through the regular motions. And I didn't want that to be my story. I think I use my body often, even through my 20s when I was a personal trainer, but that is such like a rote like routine. I'm going to lift a weight or I'm going to do an exercise of sorts.
Right.
And I even taught some pretty wild dance classes, and I won't expand, but you could come up with some what they could be.
Yeah.
And
Insert blank here.
yeah, insert blank image of Tamra, non-worshiping and dancing Tamra, and that was me. And so again, it was this place where I'm like, what do I want to do with this? And I really considered where do I want to play and how do I want to explore what worship could mean to just me again and make it very personal. I think the world presents it as one thing, even in good context, not in bad. Like obviously with theater and watching people do dances, like I could just sit and geek out and I'm grinning from ear to ear watching Broadway or watching any like
Mm,
choreographed routine. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But what did that look like for me personally, for someone who wasn't on a stage in that context? And what had actually happened, Joelle? You were actually there to witness it unintentionally. I was at one of my conferences, and we were in Kentucky, Louisville,
yeah.
together.
Hmm.
And it was time for me to go up on stage. And as a speaker and an orator of words, I got completely tongue tied. I couldn't even think in my brain what is the first sentence that's going to come out of my mouth. I need to introduce myself, and I don't know what to say. Who am I? What is my name? And I remember my husband praying over me in the back, and he was just like, why don't you just have our friend Jay Stallings just come up and just play
Mm,
keys? And God's gonna like, it's gonna open up, the floodgates will open, you'll talk, you talk all the time, you'll be fine. I'm not worried about you. Well, he went up there and I had the keys going and I just broke out in dance. And it shocked the mess out of me because it was the most vulnerable thing I had done
wow.
ever as an adult, especially at a business conference. There's this chick dancing. What is happening? And I just remember feeling so incredibly free. And I want other people to experience that same sense of freedom through their body, because especially as women, we get trapped in this identity with our bodies, and we go through comparison and we go through self-loathing and we go through
Mm,
trying to fit in a certain size or a certain parameter of society. And I wanted and I want people, especially my daughter, thinking about her moving forward. I want people to feel free in their body. And I think that's what God would want us to feel. And if we're going to be worshiping and we can't even move, like we're like left, right, like I don't feel like there's an expression in that. And so when I came back to dance as an adult and then also coming to a formal class, which was with you, I didn't really know 100% what I was seeking. I just knew that I wanted to establish a hobby again and I wanted to feel free doing it. I wanted to move, but I didn't want it to be regimen like a personal training experience. Um, and I will tell you, it was the most vulnerable thing I've probably done in this stage of my life in a really long time. I remember crying, leaving sometimes. You would ask a simple question at the end that like forever changed me of just like, what's one word to describe yourself? Or what's the one way you want to leave today? And it's I am, insert that word based on empowerment of what just transpired in the last hour through your body. And it was, oh gosh, it was just, speaking of body, you're in your body, but it was an out of body experience. And I remember applying a lot of what you were saying to like my business life and my entrepreneurial journey and my role as a mom. You had no idea you were ministering to me, but man, you were fantastic at it. And it was like,
Yeah.
how do I let other people in on this? And only dancers really get it. Really. I found people who aren't rhythmically connected to their body, they have a really hard time expressing themselves, I think, in
Mhm.
general, and in understanding the expression of what's transpiring emotionally inside of them. So for me, because I'm surrounded by words all the time, when I dance, I get to be silent and yet say a whole lot, if that makes sense.
No,
I'll
absolutely.
pause. Keep
Yeah,
going.
no, I understand more than you know. I think I'm so glad those helps you in that way. I think
Oh
it's
yeah,
a phrase that I'm kind of adopting recently is like dance is never about dance.
yeah.
It's like it's never really about the dancing. Like I mean dancing
So
is the tool, but it's like it's
yeah,
always connected to something more.
yeah,
Um and it's that's actually something I want to one of the topics. We don't have to go super deep into it, but it's like you've always been the supporter, like the you've been like from yourself to Coop to me and my business to
yeah.
the conferences, like the supporting investing side of
Mhm.
of dance has been awesome. Um, for example, uh, you brought me out to Kentucky, and you also brought me out to FounderCon, um,
Yeah.
and so you've supported me as a dancer. You brought like artists. You like the integration of artists like myself who dance,
Yes.
and then like non-artistic businesses. And
Yes.
so like most people would probably say those things were completely opposite, let alone not being able to like integrate with each other.
Yeah.
Um, but obviously your view is very different on that question mark. And so like where did that view come from? How did it develop? And like tell me more about that.
Yeah, and to clarify for people in context to these conferences that he's alluding to, it I mentioned faith in business. Basically, imagine a bunch of people in suits, right? Like it's very much like a business conference, it's entrepreneurial, and here I am telling Joelle to come out and like bust the ties open and like let's cut it loose and break out of this box that has been created by society and let people like feel something new. And for me, because I have such a deep connection to movement in general, and I believe that all of these messengers are developing movements with their businesses, but they don't have that vernacular. I needed them to see that, like, based on the way that you can say yes to something as awkward for some people, because some people are very awkward when it comes to dance. They don't have to be, but their mind is plaguing their body, right? Like
Yeah.
their mind is controlling the context versus letting their body play and their mind catch up with the idea that this could be fun or
Mhm.
this actually is again vulnerable in a different way than I've ever been vulnerable, and it's actually connecting me to something that I've never been connected to before. And so I want people to feel that. And I think what better way to do it than to jolt them alive inside of a business context where they take themselves so seriously. And I think that's the part of play that is really important to me. And I think play connected to dance, connected to life, right? Like this is where life really is abundant when you can get to this space of freedom and expression. And so if people were to do it more often, it makes me think of the movie with Tom Hanks and Big. It's called Big. This
Yeah.
might be beyond. Have you seen this? I was like, it might
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
beyond your
Yeah.
aging myself, but there's this moment where he's like walking through this big, huge mall in New York, and his feet touch like one of those massive pianos, and he starts like playing chopsticks in the middle of the thing, and then someone playing it with him, and you see this guy who was actually a child stuck in a man's body start to play and express himself. And that's why I bring you to conferences. I'm like, there, Joelle has to be there. There's a non-negotiable to me. I need these people, these little kids trapped in these big adult bodies to come out
Mm.
and play. And if they could unlock that in a context of safety, which I believe our conference is a place of intimacy and safety, then maybe they can do it when they go to work. Maybe they can actually do it when they're with their spouses and their families. And what it has done for me in that context is like breaking free from childhood trauma, I think is directly linked to my entire journey with dance. And I was
Mm.
reflecting on that when I got some of the questions that we were going to discuss today. And I was like, man, I can't believe if you just follow my dance lineage, my dance story alone, how much has happened in my freedom story connected to it.
Jeez. Yeah, and
Yeah.
what's super cool is the fact that it's like multitasking. Because I remember when you came to Kentucky, I was like, "Why am I here? What is
Yeah.
happening?" And I was like, "Well, I don't belong here at all." You know, I barely considered myself a business, let alone like being at a business conference. And so, like that also, like your dance journey, like affecting other people because of the dance journey that you had, also affected my dance journey in that same way, that it's like I now consider myself a business and I realize the value that God has put inside of me to give to other people. And so that also shifted my
So
dance
cool.
journey. And now, like, again, like your dance journey now, for better, for worse, started and stopped. And then you're giving it to Coop. And then I'm now getting business during COVID because you want to have Coop dance. And it's like we're all kind of in this interconnected web, you know? And
Yeah.
like we don't
Yeah.
realize how just like, oh, I'm gonna move to this music, and it's like, oh, you gave me the permission to give myself the permission to dance,
Yes.
you know. So
Yes.
yeah, and
Yeah, and
it's
it technically because we all have bodies, we all have this gift of what dance could be in our life if we're willing to receive it, practice it, and then release it to the world. You think of like those people on the side of the street that even if their dance is like they've got a cardboard, sign and they're doing something crazy on the corner, the amount of smiles that they bring people because they're doing something that a mass population would never do, right? Like that's a stage moment for that person. And they've got all these people staring at them and they're flipping cardboard signs and doing a little jig. And you're like, man, that person, though they're in need of money, maybe they're homeless, they're in need of attention or love or something, they might be freer than every person driving by them. And that is what dance can give you. And so, if
mm,
there's ever people who are like, why is this person at this conference? And I can't believe I have to stand up and start moving my body. I can't wait to watch those people squirm and wiggle and then smile and then release and then like actually get into the purpose of it. And so, I think honestly, as I'm even processing this, I know we've had conversations at the conferences about your involvement. You've taught a little bit around it. I
mm,
think it'd be really valid for us to like even have this conversation to go a little bit deeper with people because I don't think that they know what they're missing, right? And yeah, there could be that moment where they just dance for, 5 minutes to loosen up their lunch that they just had, or to get outside of their body and
Yeah.
actually like feel something for once. But it's for me, it's so much deeper. And I know it is for you too. But how do you like shake someone who's a 50-year-old businessman or 60-year-old businesswoman who hasn't actually felt in their body. They haven't lived in their body in a really
Yeah.
long time.
I mean, for me, it's safety. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
if you know, like if I come out and I'm like, we're gonna do this thing, and it's like, nah,
Yeah.
like you immediately clench, you know. So like just creating a safe environment, which I think is something like a gift that God has given me. But on top of it, um, without without grading or like
Mm,
evaluation, you know what I'm saying?
it's
Like
good.
I tell my students that, especially when they're in school, because they relate to it more. I'm like, there's no grade to this. Like
Yeah.
there's no points. There's no. It's if you mess up the move that I've given you to do, that's not
Yeah.
even the point. First of all, second of all, like just stop and then keep going. Right? This is
Yeah.
for you. This is not for me. Um. So like when you combine both of those things, it's like, oh, if I don't do what I think I'm supposed to be doing, there will be no like demerits given to me.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh,
Right.
-5 points, and you're like, what? There's no, that's not a thing.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah. So I think that's a huge thing.
And I think too, like connected to the idea of a society that celebrates striving and it celebrates performance and it
yeah,
celebrates achievement, that when you're in a place, this is a lot of like the undoing that I was doing in front of the mirror with you while we were dancing was, first off, I didn't have anyone to compare myself to, other than you, but we don't dance the same,
yeah,
right? And that's the whole point, is stop
mhm,
copying me and you be you in this expression.
yeah,
But I didn't have like a outcome. I didn't even have a goal going into dancing with you other than that I knew how long I was going to do it and what sessions I would pay for. But as far
yeah,
as like okay, I'm going to do X so that there is this outcome, that wasn't there. I wasn't like trying to lose a certain amount of weight. I wasn't like, none of that was there, which was so different than every other part of my life. And
yeah,
so I think for people as they're processing, like, why would I incorporate dance into something that I'm going to do in this next season, if that's something people are contemplating? Yes, just like literally say yes without all of the other elements that society would place on you. And that's where imagination comes back into play. When I think about my faith, I think of awe and wonder. Like I get to like be in awe of this connection point that I have with this body that ultimately is wasting away, right? Like I won't always get to move the way that I get to move today. And we take such advantage of that. And
mhm,
we decide to sit in desk chairs for 10 hours instead. And like, what if that wasn't our prerogative? What if there was something more to explore that would then keep us in this longevity of flow that, people just don't have these conversations. And so I really truly like value the heart of what your movement is, what your message is connected to getting people out and discovering, because for you it's identity, right? It's identity work
yeah,
to say this is me, and this is what I look like, and this is how I feel, and today I get to dance like this and tomorrow I get to dance like that, and there's no right or wrong to any of that. That was another thing that always shook me, is like, I, in my brain, with my controlling self, we would learn like a part of a song and I would practice this. I would look back at myself on the videos that I took and I'm like, I am going to unlock this and we're going to build on this week. It's going to be fantastic. And I would get there and he'd be like, okay, and today we're doing this. And I'm like, what? What? Where's, I need accomplishment. I need sense of completion. You're
yeah.
literally not going to finish the song. I remember being like, Tamra, you're not in control here. Tamra, be a part of the process. And so there was a lot of undoing in me that transpired as you didn't even know half of the things that were happening in my brain or my heart
Mm,
at the time. But it was so personal. I could write a book just about it. I mean, it just
mm.
really was magical, even though I don't really believe in that word.
Yeah. No, yeah, I and it's very interesting to let go, because then you can like take that same letting go into like your personal life. Like I said, dance is never just about dance. Like
Totally.
I'm going through that even right now. Like I'm supposed to like accomplish something and be open palmed at the same time. So
Yes.
that's the next level that comes, where it's like, don't just not try. Some people just need to not try. Like some people just need to be like, I'm done trying. Let
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
just flow with it.
Surrender.
Like I'm not even sure what flow means,
Yeah.
but like let's go for it. Um,
Yeah.
and then there's like a, okay, I want to do something and I need to be open palmed with it at the same time. Now that I've experienced the open
Mm,
palmed nature of this thing that's totally outside of my realm, let me
yeah.
bring this in. And so for me, I mean, obviously my business is a dance business, but like it's that same thing where I'm like, okay, I'm moving forward and I'm, as a person, letting go while moving forward. And
Yeah.
so like to
Mm,
combine those is
so
so
powerful.
countercultural to everything
It
we've been
is.
taught since like third grade, you know.
For real. And that's the part I think of the exploratory piece that again people just drop off. They just drop off out
Mm,
of their life because we don't go to playgrounds anymore, right? And we don't have dances that are we sign up for and get dressed up for like homecoming or
yeah.
prom, right? And so that was one of the things that was really fun about last conference is we started at the gala and the dance floor that occurred at the end where we got to see people break free. Some people were just on the outskirts of the dance floor smiling, watching. Some people were like, what is happening? I don't know if this is like a part of this
Okay.
conference or not. Like they didn't even know, but I loved seeing people break out themselves and then to be able to go into the conference the next day and be like, we were dancing on the dance floor last night and we're strangers. It literally broke down barriers that I think
Yeah.
otherwise would have been because the keynote speaker was dancing on the floor with the person who got the free ticket. And there was no hierarchy, and there is no hierarchy in dance,
Yeah.
which I think is just profound. And for people to understand that, it takes we watch AGT as a lot as a family, and you'll see these kids come out and you're just like, how do they move like that? And then they're now I can just foresee it, because then you see the adults come out and they don't even know what to do with their body, and I'm like, how is this possible? So I just think it's so much more fundamental than people give it credit for.
Yeah.
I do think, Joelle, we should because comparison's such a huge element to what dance is, even though there's no mirrors around at the conference, which is very helpful. I think we should have everybody put on blindfolds next time. And we should like all put on blindfolds
Like, what would
and
you
like
do if you knew
feel
literally no one was
the
watching?
music. Yeah, like how would you move? What would that look like? How would you
Right.
feel? And maybe it's just another layer of like connectivity because they're
Right.
turning off one of their senses, which is often connected to judgment.
Mm, mm. I'm down.
Okay, let's
I'm
go.
always down. Yeah, because like I said, it's like
I'm in.
ever since going to Kentucky and doing the conference, and
Yeah,
that just kind of, speaking of blindfolds, like that being lifted off of me and being able to see like what it is that I have, like having like it's always about the the next layer down. It's like I can now see like what this actually does for people. So
completely. Yeah, I think and this really applies to anyone, especially in the creative arts space, because I think similar to business, we go into these silos of like, oh, you're a dance coach, so you can only help X, Y, and Z.
mm,
And that's just not true. And so being able to, have that revelation and then be able to move forward with it. And at the time, like such a young age, it would have been such a shame if this was like a secret and not exposed as soon as it has been for you to all of the earth, right? Like the Lord says to use it for all of his glory to all of the earth, all ends of the earth. And so there's no segment or genre or entity, even in the spheres of influence, like political, educational, that like I want to see people muzzled from if you're talking about words or muted or confined in. And so the exploration of what flow and movement is no different than how I would want my children to explore something in the engineering space, right? Like just go and see what this could be in that context. And so I love that you had that opportunity. Again, I don't I just because I love dance, I invited you. I don't even know if I was thinking about all of the other layers, but that's how good God is and how big he is like I actually have a personal engagement with Joel to be here and I'm going to expose all of these things to him, which is the same thing of me being able to go and say yes to dance again was just like I have something more for you than it's not about dance. It's not about dance, you know?
Mm. Um, I I'd like to land the plane here, but before I do, um, I don't always get to ask this. I don't always get
Yeah.
to know this information. But like you are, you had Coop take lessons, and then
Uh-huh.
you didn't take lessons, but you dance like well with Coop sometimes, and then
Yep.
you hit me up and you're like, hey, I'd like to did lessons for myself personally.
Yeah.
What was that like switch that flipped? And like because
Hmm.
you kind of spoke it towards some other people like, hey, if you're considering this, yes, do
Yes.
it. But like
Yeah.
what was the thing that flipped for you, and how you could you like kind of gear that towards other people and like what they might
Yeah.
be considering?
You a little bit alluded to it without me fishing for it, but connected to the fact that we can be such supporters of other people and do a lot connected to serving other people in our spare time and even doing things for fleshly reasons rather than spiritual reasons when it comes to moving our body because it's the skinny fad and the gym routine and all of these things that are exposed to us on a regular basis. And so for me it was I want to do something selfish, like literally for me that I know. First off, I knew God was going to meet me there. One, because you're in your faith, and two, because you knew my posture towards like, I want to dance because I love to worship. And that was really kind of it. There was no other preconceived notion. Um, and so, yeah, I think when we think about hobbies and we think about passion and we think about play, if it's not fundamentally selfish for the sake of serving, right? Not for the sake of like hoarding. For me, it was like, this is a selfish thing that I get to do with the Lord, and He delights in me. And so I wanted to create a space in my schedule that I was going to get to explore something that I used to love and see how does it fit into this new version of me.
Mm.
I've got friends who have done this connected to like horseback riding, right? And like horses are just, oh my gosh, equestrian therapy is just incredible.
Yeah.
And they decided, 20 years later, I'm going to go take riding lessons again. And to be in the atmosphere of the farm, to like be with connected to an animal in that regard, it's majestic. And they got to tap into this like long lost child inside of themselves. So I guess that would be my answer is like I
Mm.
just was in a season where I had nothing to give and I know God had something for me to gain. And yes, it took time away from my family. Yes, it took time out of my work schedule. Yes, it cost money. Like there was all of these elements that I usually would be like, no, I'll do this with my kids, or no, I'll do this with Gary, or no, that's like the time that I'm supposed to take my kids and like be responsible and take them to school. And I was just really tired of making excuses that weren't benefiting me, that at the end of the day selfishly serve everybody else in bounty because I was able to do that for myself.
That's beautiful. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Hey,
it
thank you
was
so
fun.
much for sharing.
It was fun. I'm
Yeah.
so glad. It was really cool to explore like the evolution of dance in my life. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, actually, before we finish, where can
Yeah.
people find you, and what would they might be able to gain from you with all the things that you do? So
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
words.
Yeah, all the words, all the words. I spend the most time on Instagram, even in a season where I've been doing less there. It's still probably my favorite platform to hang out with people. I have tons and tons of podcasts. You can go and listen to thousands of them, not actively podcasting right now outside of serving in shows like this. So that's been new for me. But this is a season of pruning, and spring is on its way. So I'm excited to see what blooms new in that. But definitely hang out with me on Instagram. You'll even see some of my dance there because it's a thing I love to do. I'll say from that lens, a couple of years ago, prior to Cooper, prior to COVID, and him dancing, prior to me coming to you, I had this creative content creator that came out to one of the masterminds I was at. And he was like a slam poet, basically. And he
Okay.
wanted us to do an activity where he wanted us to create something we had never created before by telling a story via our social media. And we all got to break and tell what the storyline is and create it and all this stuff. And I chose to dance. I had not danced. I definitely had never put dance on my social media. And I did this entire story, and it was like a minute and a half of a reel. And I ended up, we go back and I share it to him. And he had at the time like maybe 22 million followers. Like he was just, that was what he did. His Travis Believes is his name. And he looked at my content, and he like looked at me, and he was like, "Why don't you do this every day?" And I was like, "I don't know. That feels like a lot. Like that was a whole lot of
Mm.
practice." And he was like, "If you did this every day, you'd have 22 million followers within the year." And I remember that moment and being like, really? Like, all I have to do is like dance and create and tell a story, and there can be influence connected to that. Now, I didn't do it because it didn't feel connected to like the work that I did, but it
Yeah,
would
yeah.
have been, and it is. And so, I guess to just like land the plane, like you were saying, is there is never a part of something that we're doing in our life that dance isn't fully integrated. And that's if you're consider yourself a great dancer, or you're a novice, or it sounds like you want to vomit when you think about using your body to do anything. I promise you, dance is fundamental to our design as humans. And I just think of like dancing diaper babies, right? Like when they start dancing and they hear music for the first time, and they're just dancing up and down, they're doing little baby squats. And it is
Mm.
the best thing ever to watch. And so embrace your dancing diaper baby butt that you had when you were an infant, and go do some dancing squats and maybe post it online and see how it makes people smile, or get on the street corner.
No. Awesome. I love it.
So good. Thanks, Joelle.
Of course. I don't know many people as like gung ho and like fired up about dance as Tamra. Like even some dancers I know are not as fired up. Like people who do it professionally or people who do it on a weekly basis. It's crazy. Um so it's just a reminder that you don't need to have a specific thing that you do with dance to be passionate about what dance is in your life. It's incredible. And she said so many things that I believe that I didn't have to say because she said it herself. This is her Instagram. Like she said, that's where most of her stuff is. Just as bright and colorful and bubbly as she is, her Instagram and her whole brand identity is the exact same way. It's incredible. Um, I don't think I've ever seen as many colors in my life as when I'm with Tamra, like at her events and when she's branding herself. It's awesome. Um, so yeah, just as much as you invest in dance, dance is like investing into you. It's this organic exchange, like I said Monday. It's this thing that you are constantly giving and taking, and dance is giving and taking. It's awesome. Um, so we have my website and my Instagram here. Hip Hop Musicality is still up and running. There's plenty of other podcasts that you can, other talk show episodes that you can watch on my YouTube channel. So if you just Google me or type me into Joel Casanova into or Be Hunter Dance into YouTube, it'll pull up. Especially if you add talk show to the search words. And yeah, so Hip Hop Musicality, Monday, 7 p.m. every single week. No matter where you are in your dance journey, if you do something, you're a dancer versus you're a non-dancer, right? You can learn something, you can grow in it, you can do it for yourself. And what you do with dance will always be justified, right? You will always have a reason to do it. And there's no wrong reason unless you're trying to like hate yourself, like, and give yourself something that you can't do, right? As long as it's positive, like dance can give you something that you sometimes we don't even realize that it's giving us. Again, like I said, Monday. And in Tamra's life, the things that she has done and the people she's impacted just by saying, I love dance, we should do it. Right? Like hundreds of people that I've interacted with and I've taught dance to because she was just involved in it. Like the actual event that she was putting on had nothing to do with dance. And at the same time, it had to do with people. So it kind of did have to do with dance. You know what I mean? So I'm going to put the hip hop musicality class up after I end this. And I hope you got something from Tamra and I's conversation. And have a great day.